All right, here we are. Brian,
Hello.
how's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad, man.
Nice. Good to see you.
Hello to everybody in the internet world. Nobody knows who we are yet, so we're just going to go ahead and tell you. This is called the Sonic Road Podcast, okay? This is me. My name's Beau, and this is Brian here.
Hello.
We're based out of Cleveland, Ohio. This is our first episode. And this is our introduction, so we're just going to tell you who we are and what we're about and what this podcast is going to be about. So I'll go first. My name is Beau. I'm in a band called Screaming Engines. Some people might know me from the Rock Savages podcast, which ran for several years. We did about 114 episodes, all dealing with rock and roll, heavy metal, and the people that create that stuff. So it was a really good podcast. We had a good time with it. We had a lot of good guests on. And the Sonic Road Podcast is going to pretty much kind of emulate that podcast. It's going to be music-based to start out, focusing on rock and roll, heavy metal, and then any other genre we want to do. It might get a little more diverse as we move along, and that's kind of the goal. We're going to interview musicians, producers, engineers, photographers, graphic artists, folks like that are all tied in to the music industry and therein. So that's kind of the goal here. And that's my introduction. Brian, who are you and what are you all about, man?
Well, like you said, I'm Brian. I am currently in the infancy of a project called The Crying Scene, which is kind of lean rock and roll, lean metal, lean industrial, doom, shoegaze, all kinds of crazy stuff. Very excited about it. Slow moving like many projects are.
Sure.
In their infancy, even in their senior years, a lot of stuff moves slow these days. Just a matter of doing it right and doing it to feed your own heart, basically.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Sure.
Excited about that. Very excited about this podcast. Very, very excited.
Yeah, I figure you get you involved, man. You're a pretty good communicator, and you love rock and roll and heavy metal and everything in between too. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be fun, and it will evolve as we move along. So just to let you guys know that. So what's the goal for the Crying Scene? You guys you looking to do a couple singles to get started, or are you gonna do a record, or how's that gonna go?
Enough material for an EP, and then from there, maybe pick a single.
Okay.
You just have something out that's ready to go.
Right on.
Hopefully some live shows. Right now it's programmed drums, which is cool.
Yeah, sure.
If you haven't done it before, it's difficult and very, very different. And that's not in a bad way. It's cool. It's fun.
Right.
But drummers are very hard to find.
Yeah, I don't know any of them.
Yeah,
So
me neither.
they're elusive creatures like Bigfoot, I mean,
They are.
well, I mean, we kid. I am a drummer and busy in Screaming Engines. I was also in a band called Burn Blue Sky back in the day. And again, we're based out of the Cleveland area. Played in that band for like 20 years. Did 3 records with them. Kind of on hiatus, maybe forever gone. I'm not really sure yet. But, busy guy. I got a new single out with Screaming Engines. I just want to let you guys know before we keep going farther. We just released it. It's called For Lifetimes. It's available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, YouTube, any of those things. A video is forthcoming as well. Brand new song. So it was it was engineered, mixed by one Dave Hillis. He's famous for doing some of the early grunge records, namely first Pearl Jam. He did Temple of the Dog, Blind Melon, did some Alice in Chains tracks, things like that. He's been a great collaborator. The song's called For Lifetimes, like I said, and we're pretty excited about it. It's a pretty heavy, riffy, rocking song. So Screaming Engines is going to get out there and do some shows fairly soon. We're working on dates now for 2025. We'll probably start in Ohio and kind of work our way around the tri-state area. And if any opportunities, rear their heads, we'll definitely take advantage of that. But I mean, I'm mentioning Dave Hillis too, because this guy's like, he's out of Pittsburgh now. He's a professional producer, mixing engineer, and all of that. So, any local band that listens to this, and you guys too, you might benefit from that if you ever wanted to work with him. I'm sure he'd be available for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
He does all kinds of music, so it's not just the grunge stuff. He gets, he gets pegged for, being part of that grunge scene. But, that's something to be pretty damn proud of. It's going to be hard to shake that kind of legendary backlog of music that he's worked on. So it's kind of surreal working with a person like this.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
I can imagine.
Yeah, especially like he engineered those early records that we were listening to when we were like 13.
Yeah.
So those early Seattle early '90s albums that meant so much to us. I mean, those records were. I mean, for me, they were like my generation stuff.
I mean, formative records, formative
Yeah.
years, formative listening, all kinds of.
Yeah, everything before that, where I was listening to older people's music. My brother was 4 years older, so I was listening to the late '80s, the Metallica, the first 4 Metallica records. We were getting into that. I think I bought my first Metallica album when I was 10. It was Kill 'Em All. I still have that copy sitting in my crate at home. So
Is that on cassette?
it's on record, man.
Nice.
Vinyl.
Even better.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's still in good shape. So we were listening to that stuff. But I mean, when the grunge stuff came out, it was my music for sure. I was like, oh yeah, this is our generation shit, and it's that's how it kind of felt to me. But I mean, working with him has been nothing but surreal.
Well, everything he did, what's the biggest standout for you?
I mean, commercially, it was probably the Pearl Jam debut record.
Okay.
I don't know, that thing was 13 million certified.
Yeah, that's a big record.
Diamond certified.
Big for you,
yeah.
man. You love that record.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the early Pearl Jam stuff is really good. Yeah. They should have used it more, but they went on to use Brendan O'Brien and all those guys. So, I mean, it worked out for them. Who am I to say? But it'd be a good match for the crying scene too, man. Probably. Yeah. So if you guys ever want to do that, feel free. And we promote anybody around us too that's helping us, bring our projects forward, and working with him. He has a business, so we're trying to rising tides lift all boats, as they say. So, just kind of getting into that mode.
They do say that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it works. It is true.
It
It
is
is a little corny, but it does.
It makes
it-
sense. I
yeah.
love it.
I mean, all the scenes in music or whatever you're doing, you got to collab with people. You just do. I mean, you got to, you got to promote each other as you go on. I mean, that's what stand-up comedians do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're starting this podcast as musicians ourselves, but I mean, that's how a lot of the stand-up comedians that are really big right now, that's how they got big. I mean, it started with Joe Rogan, and he's telling all his friends, start a podcast. So they all started a podcast, and they all started jumping on each other's podcasts, and then before you know it, everybody's out selling out clubs and all that stuff. So I wish I could see that happening more in the music scene. It seems like right now it's kind of spread apart a little bit. There's not a lot of collaboration at least on the local scene. So that's kind of our goal also with this podcast, is to lift up the local art and music community too, And there's a lot of that here. So we have a lot of opportunities to do that. So, we'll see how it goes. I mean, me and my girlfriend just went to Derek Hess's studio over in Lakewood not too long ago, and he's a famous, artist out of Cleveland, a rock and roll guy for sure. We went over there, really nice room. All his work was there, a lot of it anyway, on display, and he was just playing rock bands in the background. So
That's
it's
cool.
like it's that kind of stuff that we need to take advantage of.
And for those who don't know, he's known for promotional material,
Yeah,
show
for-
flyers, album covers,
absolutely.
T-shirts he's done.
Yeah.
I think a friend of mine has a Derek Hess piece tattooed on her back.
Oh, that
I
yeah.
remember
Sure, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome, man. I mean, he's very distinct. It's a Derek Hess piece, but yeah, he does a lot of those rock and roll posters. He's got big prints sitting in books, that you can buy.
That's cool.
But he doesn't do a lot of represses, if any. I don't think he does. Reprints rather, not
Yeah.
represses. But yeah, he keeps that stuff on the DL, man. I mean, a lot of those old school '90s posters, he only has what he has there now.
Mm-hmm.
And the more rare they get, the more they are, which is it makes total sense because he's not going to reprint them.
Right.
So, but he does a lot of new stuff too. So it's just things like that. We'll get these people. Hopefully, try and get these people on and have some really good conversations. So we'll see. So I mean, that said, man, what are you excited about in 2025, music wise?
Well, that whole Acid Bath reunion is pretty exciting. I'm excited about that.
That kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Really did. I mean, literally out of nowhere.
Yeah,
It's been rumor mill for
quite a while.
decade or two that it was eventually going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of talk about that over the last several years. Well, we have some background with Dax Riggs. I mean, going back quite a while. My band opened for him multiple times. it wasn't with Acid Bath though. Acid Bath was kind of here and gone, man. I mean, they were only around for a few years, maybe, and then they kind of broke up. But then they did that Agents of Oblivion record, which is a couple of guys from Acid Bath and a couple other folks. And it was more kind of rock and roll, masterpiece record, good from front to back.
Very good record. Very, very good.
I don't listen to it often anymore, but when I do, I was like, oh yeah, this stuff is good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an Acid Bath song on there. I think it's an electric version of a Dead Girl, if I'm not mistaken.
It was kind of cool how it's a little bit reversed. The heavier band did the acoustic version, and then the not as heavy band did the electric version.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a different perspective there. Yeah, because the Agents record was a little more, definitely more rock, no metal at all. It was kind of it had its ups and downs,
amazing record
between. But they had toured over here in Ohio on that record 24 years ago or whatever it is now, and they stayed at our buddy's house. I mean, they were there hanging out at my buddy's parents' house, and which is kind of surreal. We're like, Dax Riggs is in your parents' driveway right now. This is wild,
That's cool, yeah. Especially when you're that young, somebody like that. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. They've always been popular in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I mean, back in the day, they weren't huge. They weren't a huge band by any means. I mean, they were, on Rotten Records and, But
what made them popular here is we had unfortunately, keyword had, 88.9 V-Rock based out of Greensboro, which is outside of Kent. So Kent is known for Kent State University.
Right.
And it was a straight up, it was just a heavy metal radio thing. It was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And they played a lot of Acid Bath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
John Darlis was a great DJ on that show.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. He did a great job.
Went to high school with that guy.
Mm-hmm. Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very good guy.
Good dude. I wish he'd come around more.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we are old, we don't see him at shows too much anymore, but
that station put Acid Bath on the map here big time.
Oh,
they played them a lot, rightfully so. They played a lot of really good stuff on that.
They sure did, man. I mean, that station was getting really big. This is before the internet was really prevalent. It was around, but I think they were doing online things, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken about that, but 88.9 was getting major waves. I don't know if they were syndicated in other places, but it blew this scene up for a while. I mean, a lot of the bands were like on the cusp of getting record deals. Mm-hmm. I think at one point Gene Simmons was out in Akron, Ohio at Bronze Crossroads trying to sign our buddy's band. It got really fucking wild for a minute, and a couple of the bands were, on the verge of getting, like I said, record deals. And we had been talking to record deals. By we, I mean my high school band. We were talking to some folks and some A&R people, and didn't work out at the end. But it was getting pretty exciting there. But that was around the time Dax was coming around with Agents of Oblivion after Acid Bath had broke up, and he would, he was around a lot, and we got to hang out with him. But back then they were kind of hard to hang out with because it was, there was some, substances floating around.
Couple.
But,
a few.
We opened for them with Burn Blue Sky probably, is that 10 years ago now? Probably.
12, 13, something like that.
Down in Kent, Ohio. That was the last time Dax came around, but we were kind of wondering about him because he kind of disappeared for almost a decade. Yeah. I mean, he just released a new record called, I believe it's called 7 Songs for Spiders.
Wait, no, it was August 2010. He played the Grog Shop here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Which I think that was a few months after your show.
Was it?
I think so.
It's hard to remember now.
Yeah, 2010 is a long time ago. That's 15 years.
Gosh.
So it would have been well before that then, because yours was about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's all kind of
was Michael Graves?
Michael Graves, yeah. Michael Graves and Dax were playing acoustic sets, actually.
Yeah.
No bands. And then there were 2 electric bands, Burn Blue Sky being one. Mm-hmm. But that show was like sold out. And it was like people from all over the tri-state area. And he was like the biggest we'd ever seen at that point. It was like, wow, it's wild. And then he disappears for 10 years, and then all of a sudden there's an Acid Bath reunion. Boom, here we are.
And a new Dax Riggs record.
Yes, simultaneously, all at the same time. So that's cool. I wonder if we're going to see some new Acid Bath music.
Maybe.
That'd
be
wild.
cool. Yeah.
It'd be pretty wild if we did.
I'm sure it would hold up. They're not going to sacrifice their integrity on new material for sure.
No.
It'll definitely be good.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see them at least release a single or two, just see how they
Yeah.
sound. It's going to be interesting to see Old Man Acid Bath.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, and they're coming to town. I think they're doing a couple dates in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. They're doing Incarceration Festival, and they're doing the Sonic Temple Festival, which I think you're heading down there, right?
The Sonic Temple one I'm going for Acid Bath. Yeah.
Yeah. I might try and go to that too. That's the Friday night show with Metallica. Let me see here. Mastodon's on that night. Rob Zombie, I believe. Alice Cooper. Acid Bath, of course, and then all the old school thrash bands, you know. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm going to go to that, man. I haven't been to many big shows in a while, just because the ticket prices are usually insane. And I don't buy them on principle usually. So I'm going to this one though. This is a good deal. I mean, it's like $300. You're getting down on the floor, and you get to see all these bands. And I haven't seen Metallica in, gosh, I don't know how long. I'm trying to think here. 96. I believe it was 96 last time I saw Metallica.
Jesus.
On Lollapalooza 96.
Okay.
And it was interesting, you know, back in the day before the internet and before smartphones. We had no idea that they changed their look back then.
Yeah.
You know, we knew they changed their sound, but this was on the Load tour, I think. And I was fortunate enough to be down front. And it was Soundgarden co-headlined with Metallica, and that was Soundgarden's last tour before they got back together in the late 2010s. So I'm really glad I got to see that. But we were front row for Soundgarden, which was just a really like groovy pit, really fun. And I was with my friend Barb and another friend Kyle. He disappeared, and me and Barb were standing right next to each other, and we got to see Soundgarden, groovy set. They got off stage. We're like, cool, we might as well just stay up front, right? So we're like stage. Let me think about this. We're stage left, right in front row. There's one row of people in front of us. So I guess we're technically in the second row, but it was all general admission, so there's no seats. And man, Metallica just walked out on stage and stood there and looked at the crowd, and then everybody just pushed up. It was like a big pressure cooker before one note was played. And next thing I know, dude, I have like 2 feet off the ground. My feet are just dangling off the ground, 2 feet.
Just hovering.
And I'm moving. And my hands are tied in like this. And I look over at Barb and I was like, see you later. Yeah. And I just moved away in a wave of humanity. And that was the last time I saw Metallica for sure. But it'd be cool to see them again, you know. I have a lot of respect for those guys. You actually met those guys, didn't you?
I did. It was an interesting night. I worked at a restaurant here in Cleveland. It was the year they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And my job for the night was to basically stand around and pass hors d'oeuvres. And we were privy to the situation. We knew who was coming in. And I was a little bit skeptical. I was like, yeah, maybe they won't show up. Maybe it'll be just a couple people. But it ended up being them, their friends, their family, their road crew, associates, affiliates, whatever. And you know, they slowly started trickling in. If my memory serves me correctly, James was the first one to show up. I mean, it's kind of cool. James Hetfield.
That's definitely cool.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah. And the rest of them trickled in. And I remember at one point I was holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, and all the members of Metallica, Jason included, because he had left the band at this point, but he was there with them for the induction.
Right.
And a little kind of funny to me was I thought to myself, when I'm surrounded by them, like I'm literally in Metallica.
Yeah.
Technically, right now. So that's kind of cool.
I would ask for a job.
Yeah.
You
guys hiring? Need anybody?
Need a roadie?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll schlep some drums around, you know?
Clean the bus, something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude. I'll work out with you, you know? We'll have a good time.
Yeah. I'll ride underneath where you guys keep your bags.
Right.
Just give me a pillow. I'll be good to go.
I won't be a problem at all.
No. You won't even know I'm there.
Yeah. I won't provide much value either, but
Zero.
it'll be cool for
Zero
me.
value. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big thing for a lot of people that night was I was, again, just kind of standing around. They were a very low maintenance crowd of people. It was very easy, very nice. Everybody was very, very nice, very respectful. And I was, again, holding the tray. and I kind of felt somebody standing behind me. I didn't turn around. It was close quarters, and it was pretty crowded venue at the time. And somebody in an English accent, sounding very eloquent and regal, said, "Excuse me, what have you there?" So I turned around and face to face with Jimmy Page, which I don't know. I think he was in a band,
struggling rock band.
Yeah, I don't think they really broke through per se, but he was in Led Zeppelin for those who already know.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Yeah, but God, he was such a cool guy. Very, very nice guy. And then that was just all around cool experience. It's not every day you get to be around.
Yeah.
That caliber of art.
With, all at the same time, too. Yeah. That will never happen again, probably in your lifetime. Being around, all those people together. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was an interesting night. It was a cool night. And just everybody being such a good person was really, really breath of fresh air. It was neat.
Yeah.
Fun experience.
It's wild, like, how do you keep your ego in check when you get so big, you know? They obviously have people around them that are like, hey, man, fuck you, you're getting out of line, kind of thing. I mean, that's the only way you stay grounded.
Right.
They've kept a lot of their old friends for a long, long time, you can tell.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the hell out of those guys. They're kind of like, the reason why, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of new Metallica music for whatever reason. I don't have enough time in the day, and I'm not hating on it. There's so much music out there, and I get infatuated, and I get obsessed with whatever I'm listening to.
Me too.
I'm a huge music lover, but I don't have a super huge collection yet. Right. I'm working on it, but I'm really picky about what I buy. It's very curated. And, so, I mean, that's kind of why there's just not enough time in the day to listen to everything. But what I respect about Metallica is their integrity onto themselves. I mean, they've released some things that have been controversial over the years, but they're following their muse, and they don't give a shit. They're doing it. And another thing I like about it is they've bought all their masters, and they took everything in-house. So they're basically an independent band now, as I understand it. They have, probably a couple industry people helping them out with their business, but they own everything. So any new, like, Metallica releases that you purchase, say, a vinyl record, it comes straight from their warehouse. And so it's DIY. They have their own company, basically. Yeah. They're doing their own thing. And I think a lot of the smaller bands out there are also starting to emulate that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I actually think a band like Clutch was kind of first to doing that. One of the first, bigger bands to just start their own record company, just to release their own stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you can, as a band and as an artist, like, master both the business side and the art side, then you got it made. You have your dream job. It's all right there. You're gonna be just fine. And I find that so interesting, and it's very rare. I'll tell you, it is. I mean, a lot of artists are great because they're wholly focused on art. Yeah. But when you have great artists that are doing both, then you're gonna make things happen. And that makes me want to support these folks even more, because the money's going directly to them. Yeah. And, you can whittle it back down to even smaller bands than that right now, which, we just went and saw a band called King Buffalo in Columbus. And they're smaller than Clutch and Metallica, obviously, and they're playing smaller rooms. But those rooms are sold out every night. Mm-hmm. And those guys press their own vinyl. They ship it all. They do their own thing. And it's completely independent, aside from, I think, some European stuff on the business side that they do. Not only are they a good band, but they're tight with their business, And that was a great show. I mean, we went down to Scully's in Columbus and saw them, and tickets were $30, really cool. Mm-hmm. And the singer from All Them Witches was doing his solo set, J.R. Parks, and that guy's in the same boat with All Them Witches, If you guys haven't heard any of these bands, go check them out. They're completely independent bands, and they kill it, man. I mean, the songs are great, the art is great, and their heart's in the right place. They do long songs, short songs, everything in between. But basically, they have their own record companies, and they're totally independent. So, and I talked to J.R. Parks at the merch booth. He had a brand new solo record out, and I think he called it Sad Bastard Music at the show, and that's pretty much what it is. It's like just him and a guitar.
Yeah, it was good.
It's not like All Them Witches, but it's, and, I talked to him, and he's like, I'm not putting it on Spotify, and you can only buy it here. And I was like, as a fan, I'm like, dang, I wish I could listen to it in the car, but I respect that dude's integrity, and I respect his desire and drive to keep control of his art. So, what'd you think of that show?
I was impressed. I liked it quite a bit.
That was your first King Buffalo show.
It was. Yeah, they're good. They're very, very good band.
Yeah, they were a pandemic band for me. I mean, I just discovered them on some random. It might have been. It was probably a Spotify playlist or something. They just came on a random, and I was like, I ran out of the room. The other room I was in, I was like, what the hell's this? And by the end of the weekend, I owned all their stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a rare thing.
And it's great when it does happen.
Oh,
it's a good feeling.
It's the best. Yeah.
It makes you feel young again, man. It's like discover something when you're 15, 16, 17, 10 years old, however old.
Right.
You discover something in your adult life, and it can be every bit as impactful as something you discover when you're younger. It's amazing.
Yeah. And even though it is rare when it happens, it's like you said, it's great. And that's exactly what it does. It makes you feel young again.
It does.
Or, maybe not young again, but inspired to do art, whether it be music or whatever it is. It could be graphic artists, my girlfriend's an artist too, and she gets inspired by things like that, people being around her, different pieces of work, and it just lights fire under your ass,
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
what are you listening to right now as far as bands you're fans of? Like, give me a couple bands that you're like really kind of digging in.
I've been blown away by Galia. They are just a literal master class in songwriting. They are unbelievable. Their aesthetic is amazing. Their music is untouchable.
Where are they from?
Portugal.
Yeah. We've talked about them off camera, but
They are, oh my God,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Saw them twice. They haven't been to the United States often, but went to Detroit in the end of November. Then mid-December, I went to Dallas to see them, and it was unreal. I mean, do yourselves a favor and put them on the radar.
Yeah.
The spelling is Gaerea.
Dang.
They
Wonder how an American says that.
heard a lot of different pronunciations with it.
I bet they have a hard time with it. They have to make a record called Pronounced.
Right.
Just like the first Skinner record. I'm
Yeah.
sure they back in the day,
Yeah.
it's like, messing this name
Yeah.
up. Yeah, but
Oh my God, they are so good.
yeah,
Everything they've put out. I think they formed in 2016.
been around a while.
Probably call it a demo. I'd probably call it an EP, and then full lengths after that, and just listen to them.
Right? Are they on a label?
Season of Mist.
Oh.
Which is a
Yeah.
phenomenal
Yeah.
label. They put out a lot of really good stuff.
Yep. They've been
The
around.
Europeans know how to do heavy music. They know how to do extreme music. There's an element of tastefulness that's done with it, in my opinion.
Sure.
And again, that's all falls on the listener's ears. My favorite thing in the world can be your least favorite thing.
Sure. I mean, it's subjective.
Yeah, it really is. It doesn't. Well, Rick Rubin said it. One person can love one thing, somebody else can hate it, and you can both be right. That's the beauty of art
Yeah.
in any format.
That's how it should be too. Especially if it's if it's not in the mainstream.
Yeah.
It can be much more rough around the edges, which we listen to. Hey man, we just mentioned Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, and I guess those guys were mainstream at one time, but I delve in and out of all that stuff. But I'm lately, the last 10 years of my listening life as a fan, I've been more in the underground. I've been going into those independent bands and the smaller shows. I'm spoiled rotten. Like going to these bigger shows is kind of tough for me.
Yeah.
Unless I can get close.
Yeah.
So
Big shows have their merit. They can be a fun party vibe, but you feel kind of, for me, a little bit of detachment if it's a big enough room,
Right.
A huge venue.
too far away.
Yeah, I saw Depeche Mode back in, I think it was November 2023, 24, at wherever the Quicken Loans Arena, I believe it's called. That's where the Cleveland Cavs play, and they have concerts there too. But it was, a massive venue, and that being a big show, didn't have the best spot in the world, but it was still beyond enjoyable. It was great to see.
Right.
But you go back and you think about, like, God, how awesome would it have been to see this in, like, 1,000-seat venue. But
Right, yeah, right.
Freaking Depeche Mode, dude.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Or they do, they could, but they'd have to do multiple nights in a city.
Yeah.
One city,
Yeah, like 10 in a row.
Yeah, and it'd be $1,000 thing,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Or maybe not that much, but a little more expensive. I don't know. How much more would you pay to see him in a smaller room?
Well, it's Depeche Mode, dude. probably a lot.
Yeah, I would assume.
I mean, not like
I mean, I'm not so much Depeche, but
Yeah.
maybe another band.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd throw some money at a smaller.
yeah. I mean, something like that. You work for a reason, and you are fortunate enough to be able to be in a position where you can have a job to where you can do that every once in a while. You know, if you just use it all to pay your bills and put it in the bank, you're kind of cheating yourself in life a little bit.
Yeah.
So can you
a
put out a
little
couple
both.
bucks every once in a while?
Yeah, you gotta live life, dude.
Sure.
And you
That's
gotta
right.
support art.
Yeah.
You know, you should. You know, if you like music, go and support it. Support the smaller bands. You know, they need it a little bit more than the bigger bands do, especially some of the older bands that have mailbox money. And by that I mean royalty checks from back in the day when people still made money on records. I mean, a lot of these smaller bands, that's the only way they make money is selling T-shirts at shows. So it's really important to get out to those smaller venues, the smaller clubs, and throw your fucking cash at these folks because it literally helps them get down the road. I've talked to many musicians on my last podcast. They were all touring, professionals, you know, and a couple of them kind of broke it down for me. It's like a lot of times these small tours only pay for themselves. So basically, by the time the band gets home, it's pretty tight.
Very tight. Very tight.
That it's so important to get out and support smaller bands and smaller venues for sure. There's just been so much on that cake. Plus, I am in a small band that needs people to come out to the show. So come on out, guys. We'll have more information for you on our projects as we move along with this podcast. Like I said, just to sum it up, the goal is to highlight people in the music industry that don't get a lot of attention sometimes. And hey, if we can get the people on that do get all the attention, that's fine. We're going to try like hell. And I can guarantee that we're going to have some great conversations coming up with some prominent musicians and everybody in between in the music realm. So that's our goal. And that's all I got, man. What do you got to say?
That's about it.
All right, this is the first episode of the Sonic Road podcast. This is our introduction, and we'll be back really soon.